we may have standard output, we may have standard time, we may have standard wages. Against that, we compare with the actual output, actual wages, actual time that is being spent on the production, and we try to analyze, is there any variance? Okay, so now with the help of this variance analysis, okay, we can find out what is the variance and what is the reason for variance. So now this variance analysis will help us to know, right? So how much is the variance and what actions should be taken by the management to reduce this variance. So now here we have in the variance analysis, it can be material variance, or it can be labor variance. Okay, so now here we have different formulas to arrive at the variance analysis. Okay, so the formula standard production. So like that we have number of formulas, right? So when we apply those formulas, it would be very easy for us to identify what is the variance. So to explain this properly, we can take up the problem. Through that problem, we will understand how exactly we can find out the causing variance, okay, in the maybe production or wages or maybe in the standard time. So now to solve any of the problem, it is very important for us to remember the formula, right? So there are different formulas for various kind of variance calculation. So the formula is very important over here. Okay, so first problem we will take it up. From the following information, calculate material variance. Okay, so now here I will write calculate material variance. Okay, so now here they have given three materials. Material N and material R. Okay, so now here they have standard quantity in terms of kgs. So now and 30 and the total quantity is 60, and here we have 2, 4 and 5 and total this is standard, and then also they have given actual quantity. Then they have given actual price. Then total Okay, so this is the information. So now with this information we need to find out the material variance. So now here when it comes to material variance, we have different types of material variance. Okay, so the first variance could be material cost variance. Okay, so what is the actual price and standard price and what is the variance in the price? So first can be material cost variance. Okay, so next could be material price variance. Okay, so after material price we have material usage variance. Okay, and then material mix variance and then material sub usage variance. Okay, so like this we have different types of material variances. So first one we will take it up, material cost. Okay, so now here they have asked us to find out only material variance. So it is implied that we have to find out all the different types of variances related to materials. Okay, so first one. Okay, so material cost variance is equal to actual quantity into actual price minus standard quantity into standard price. Okay, so actual quantity is, here we can say it is 5 and actual price. Okay, so now here we can see that is 5. Sorry, okay, actual price for P is 3. Okay, so now here actual quantity is 5, okay, and actual price is 3. Same way, standard quantity and standard price. Okay, so now here 15 minus 20. Okay, so now here it is, total is coming to 5. So now for N, actual is 15 into 5 and standard here we can see 20 into 4. Okay, so now in the same way, actual is 25 into 6 minus 30 into 5. That comes to 'So now here standard is equal to actual. Okay, so that is 0. Okay, in the same way, second one we can find out. Material price variance. Okay, so that is actual price So now here the formula followed for material price variance is actual price minus selling price into actual quantity. So P, actual price 3 minus selling price is 2 and the actual quantity is 5. Okay, so in the same way for next one, N. So actual price is 5. Okay, next standard price is 4 and actual quantity is 15. Okay, so next one are so total is coming to 45. Okay, so this is what we have found out, material price variance. Okay, so next we can find out material usage variance. So the material usage variance formula is actual quantity minus standard quantity into selling price. Okay, so now here we can see actual quantity minus standard quantity into selling price. Okay, that is usage variance. So P here 5 minus 10 into 2. Okay, so actual quantity. Okay, so now here we can see 15 minus, okay, standard quantity is 20 into selling price. So this is the details of price. Next we have material mix variance. Okay, so material mix variance. That is actual quantity minus revised standard quantity into selling price. So material usage or material mix variance. Okay, so here we have the formula as actual quantity minus revised standard quantity into selling price. So first we need to find out what is the revised standard quantity. For that we need to apply this formula. Revised standard quantity is equal to standard quantity divided by total standard quantity. Okay, so standard quantity divided by total standard quantity. So first we need to find out what is revised. So for P is equal to 10 divided by total standard quantity is, here it is given as 60. So 10 divided by 60. Okay, so here into total actual quantity. Okay, so now here total standard quantity is 60 into total actual quantity is 45. That comes to 7. Next we have N, 20 divided by 60 into 45. That comes to 15. So R is equal to 30 divided by 60 into 45 is equal to 22.5. So this is what we have found out to be our revised standard quantity. Okay, so next we can find out now material mix variance. Apply this formula here. For P, what is the actual quantity here given? Actual quantity is 5 minus 7 into selling price. Okay, here it is given as 2. Okay, so now for N, it is 15 minus 15, 4, 0, 25 minus 22.5 into 5. Okay, so now here next one. Okay, so that is material sub-usage variance Okay, standard quantity minus revised standard quantity into selling price. So now P, standard quantity is 10, revised standard quantity we have found out here as 7.5, then standard price is 2. Okay, so this is how we need to find out, okay, the variance analysis. So now let us go through the meaning of variance analysis once again. So here, as per the definition, standard costing guides as a meaningful measuring rod to the management for determination of variances in order to evaluate the production performance. Okay, so now here always we should have a standard costing. So now here standard is a benchmark. Okay, so standard will provide you as a benchmark against which we need to measure the performances. Okay, so now here we can see the standard quantity is given and the standard price is given. Against that we are given actual quantity and the actual price. So now whenever we want to measure the performance, we have to evaluate based on the differences of these two. The term variances may be defined as a difference between standard cost and actual cost for each element of cost incurred during a particular period. So whenever we find the difference between standard and actual, we term it as variance. Okay, so now this variance will help us to point out, okay, what is the variance, how much is the variance, and also to find out what are the causes of variance. The term variance analysis may be defined as the process of analyzing variance by subdividing the total variance in such a way that management can assign responsibility for off-standard performance. Right? So now here through this variance analysis we can assign the responsibility, right, to a particular segment where the variance is causing, and we can find out the real reason behind it. The variance may be favorable variance or unfavorable variance. And the actual performance is better than the standard, it is represented as favorable variance. Similarly, where actual performance is below the standard, okay, it is called as unfavorable performance. Okay, so now here we can find out the difference between, okay, the actual and the standard. If actual is better or actual performance is better than the standard given, then we can say that it is a favorable performance or favorable variance. In the same way, when actual performance is below the standard, it is called as, okay, unfavorable variance. So now here we can see, okay, so what are the benefits of going for this standard costing? The word standard means a yardstick or a benchmark. The term standard cost refers to predetermined cost, right? So what do we mean by standard cost? It is a benchmark or a yardstick. Okay, so now this standard costing is a predetermined cost based on some analysis or based on some research. Right? So how do we arrive at the standard price? Maybe based on our cost of production. If we keep this much as a standard price, then we are going to earn the profit. Right? So in that way, standard price will serve as a benchmark or a yardstick. In the same way, standard quantity of production. So we know the capacity of a production. Okay, we know the various facilities or technical advancement that we have to take up the production activity effectively. Based on that, we determine this is the standard quantity of production. Okay, we are able to produce this much taking into consideration our facilities, right? So now the standard quantity is measured against actual quantity, right? So now here I'll give the example that standard quantity we are able to produce 10 kgs. Okay, considering our all other facilities, means if we produce 10 kgs, we are able to utilize the resources properly, right? So now here if we see the actual quantity of production is 5. Okay, so now there is a variance. Why there is a variance? Maybe we are not able to utilize the production facilities properly. So in that case, we are not able to reach up to the yardstick or the standard, and there is a scope of improvement in the production. Standard costing is a concept of accounting for determination of standard for each element of cost. So for each element of cost, the management will assign the standard. Okay, so standard costing, standard quantity or a standard price is being fixed for each element of cost. These predetermined costs are compared with actual cost to find out the deviations known as variances. So that is what we have been talking about. So we want to know if there is any deviation, okay, if there is any difference, then we want to name it as variance there. Identification and analysis of causes for such variance and remedial measures should be taken in order to overcome the reasons for variance. This is the whole idea behind this variance analysis, right? So once we solve these problems, we will get to know whether there is a favorable variance or whether there is an unfavorable variance, right? So if unfavorable variance means what? Standard is more, actual is less. There is a gap, there is a difference. So we need to find out the reason for this variance, and we need to also take up the remedial measures. What corrective actions could be taken to reduce these deviations or differences here? So what are the advantages of going for the standard costing? It guides the management to evaluate the production performance. So now whenever we set a benchmark, okay, we know against which we need to compare our performance, current performance. So now when we do this variance analysis, it helps the management to guide regarding the production performance, whether it is properly performed, overperformed, underly performed, what is the reason for that? It helps the management in fixing standards. So whenever we want to find out the variance, first thing is that we need to have a standard, right? So standard is a benchmark or a yardstick, means we have the capacity to reach up to that standard when we utilize all the production facilities properly. So standard is a must, okay, if you want to measure the performance properly. Standard costing is useful in formulating production planning and pricing policies. So if you want to take up the production planning process, so in that case we need to know what is the standard costing. So now if I come to know that there is a lot of variance, right, so a lot of unfavorable variance, in that case I can improve my production policies, in case I can improve my production process so that this variance can be reduced. Right. So this variance analysis of standard costing practice will help the management to fix a proper production policy or a proper pricing policy there. It guides as a measuring rod or a tool for determination of variances. So now the standard has to be properly determined. Okay, so what is my standard cost? What is my standard quantity? What is my standard price? That has to be properly estimated. So against which we can effectively find out what is the variance. Okay, so that is being cost. It acts as an effective tool for cost control. So now here, whenever if there is any wastage that is happening, means what? My standard is different but my variance is unfavorable, means I am wasting a lot of my quantity, I am not able to reach up to the proper output or optimum output, I am not able to utilize, the usage is very poor, of material usage is very poor, right? The actual quantity of production is very less. In that case, okay, I can know that there is a lot of wastage that is happening. So you can effectively devise a cost control mechanism over there. You can control the cost. So once we find out the area where a lot of unfavorable variance is taking place, it facilitates eliminating inefficiencies by taking corrective measures. So you can find out the area where a lot of inefficiency handling is going on. Identify the area where there is a scope of improvement, okay, where you can introduce the cost control mechanism. That can be possible with the standard costing technique. It acts as an effective tool of cost control, we discussed. It helps the management in taking a proper decision, right? So whatever strategies you want to put forth or whatever managerial decision you want to take, okay, for your particular organization or a particular department. So if you know the variance, whether it is favorable or unfavorable, based on that you can formulate the strategies, okay, you can devise a mechanism to control the cost, to reduce the wastages, to reduce the unfavorable variance that is happening or that is taking place in your particular department. Effective cost reporting system is possible, right? So the entire system will be very effective, the reporting system will be very effective in that case, right? You can identify each cost element and you can identify the contribution of each cost element to the profitability of the department. If something is not contributing to the profitability of a particular department, maybe because a lot of wastage is happening, lots of variance is happening over there, right? You can have a effective control. You can have a effective mechanism to reduce the inefficiency of a particular work process. So these are some of the benefits why standard costing is placed a lot of importance in a particular organization. So to arrive at the standard cost, you need to have a proper judgment. You need to have a lot of research done behind why this is your standard quantity, why this is your standard price, right? Why this is your standard usage. So that if the standard itself is wrong, or if the standard is so unrealistic, in that case, the variance is bound to take place. So here, arriving at the proper standard is very essential from the management point of view.